We live in a world where everyone is trying to look perfect, perfect smile, perfect photo, perfect life. But deep down, we all want something much more powerful: connection. People don't remember the one who impressed them. They remember the one who understood them. When you stop performing and start being real, that's when respect begins, that's when trust builds, and that's when true influence starts. Today, I'm not here to teach you how to impress people. I'm here to remind you how to connect with them. Because connection is not about shining, it's about seeing. It's not about winning attention, it's about earning hearts. True connection begins when you stop trying to be impressive and start trying to be present. Most people walk into a room with a silent pressure. I hope they like me. I hope they see my value. I hope no one judges me. That pressure turns our personality into a performance. Instead of showing who we are, we start acting like who we think people want us to be. But the truth is, people don't connect with perfection. They connect with honesty. They connect with the person who shows up as themselves, not as a polished version. When you try to impress people, you are constantly seeking approval. When you try to connect, you are offering something much stronger to understanding. And understanding is what every human is deeply hungry for. If you only try to shine, people may look at you for a moment, but if you make them feel seen, they will remember you forever. Think about your own life. Who are the people you trust the most? Who are the people you open up to when you're stressed, scared, or confused? It's never the person who looks flawless or speaks perfectly. It's the person who listens, the one who gives space, the one who lets you be yourself without judgment. That is connection. That is influence. When you try to impress people, you stand on a stage alone. But when you connect with people, you walk beside them. And walking beside someone builds a bond that admiration never can. Admiration creates distance, connection creates closeness, and closeness is where healing, growth, communication, and real relationships live. When you demand to be seen as impressive, your energy becomes defensive. But when you walk in with curiosity, your energy becomes inviting. Curiosity is the language of connection. It says, I want to understand you, not impress you. And when people feel understood, they become open. Their guards drop, their hearts relax, they stop performing too. Connection gives people permission to be human. And when two people feel safe being human together, that is where trust is born. We try so hard to be liked, yet the most likable trait is simply being real. The world doesn't need another perfect person, it needs more honest ones. Respect doesn't come from performance, it comes from presence. Connection isn't loud. It isn't about being the center of attention. It often starts quietly. It starts with listening without rushing to respond. It starts with making eye contact. It starts with remembering someone's name or asking a simple question that tells them you care about more than small talk. It's asking, how are you really, and meaning it. It's putting your phone away when someone is speaking. It's not scanning the room while someone talks to you. It's choosing to be fully where your feet are. Connection is built in small moments of attention. And those moments matter more than 1,000 impressive words ever could. When you walk into a room and your first thought is, how can I impress them? Your attention is on yourself. But when your first thought is, how can I understand them? Your attention shifts outward, and that shift changes everything. People can feel the difference. They can feel when you're performing and when you're present. They can feel when you're trying to win their approval and when you're simply being yourself. And the moment people feel that authenticity, they naturally let their guard down. Because authenticity is rare. Authenticity feels like fresh air in a world full of masks. Connection also requires humility. Humility doesn't mean thinking less of yourself. It means thinking of yourself less often. It means giving space for other people's thoughts, stories, and emotions to exist without judgment. It means being confident enough to not always speak first. Confident enough to ask questions. Confident enough to not need all the attention. Confidence is silent, insecurity is loud, and when you're no longer trying to prove something, people sense it. That's why the quietest person in the room is often the most powerful. They aren't trying to impress anyone, and that calm energy draws respect. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that influence comes from looking strong. But the strongest connections are formed when you show vulnerability. You don't need to reveal your entire life, but showing that you are human makes others feel comfortable being human too. It creates a bridge. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is honesty. And honesty is what builds trust. People are drawn to truth, not to perfection. If you pretend your life is flawless, you may impress people, but you won't touch their hearts. If you share your struggles with humility and strength, people will not just listen, they will relate. And relatability is more powerful than admiration. People don't need more superheroes, they need more humans who lead with empathy. Connection also requires presence. Most conversations today are half-hearted because people are distracted. They're thinking of what to say next, what others might think, or what notification just popped up on their phone. But real connection requires undivided attention. When you are with someone, be with them. Put everything else aside. People can feel when your presence is real. They can feel when you're genuinely listening and when you're just waiting for your turn to speak. Listening is one of the greatest gifts you can give someone. It tells them you matter, you're worth my time, Your words deserve space in this moment. And when someone feels valued, they naturally open up and connection happens. Connection isn't fast. It doesn't rush. It doesn't try to impress quickly. It builds slowly with consistency and sincerity. It shows up in small acts of kindness, small check-ins, small moments of remembering someone's story. It grows through trust, and trust is built by being the same person both publicly and privately. Consistency is rare today, and rare things hold the highest value. You don't have to be impressive to be respected. You just have to be authentic. You don't have to be perfect to be trusted. You just have to be real. When you stop performing and start connecting, relationships become deeper, conversations become meaningful, and life begins to feel less like a competition and more like a community. Connection is not about saying the right thing. It's about meaning what you say. It's not about being impressive. It's about being intentional. Some of the most powerful conversations don't come from speeches. They come from silence followed by a genuine question. They come from someone saying, "That must be hard. Tell me more." They come from choosing to listen even when you disagree. They come from empathy, not ego. You don't need to stand out to connect. You need to stand with people. You need to care. You need to show up when others don't. You need to listen when others talk. You need to be real when others are pretending to be perfect. When you try to impress people, you chase their validation. But when you connect with people, you earn their respect. When you try to impress, you compete. When you connect, you collaborate. When you try to impress, you hide your flaws. When you connect, you accept them. Connection is not about you, it's about us. And us is where real strength lies. Connection is what turns strangers into friends, friends into family, and moments into memories. Connection is what makes conversations meaningful and relationships strong. Connection is what makes leadership real and influence genuine. Connection isn't built through perfection. It's built through shared vulnerability. Most people believe that strength means having no weaknesses, no flaws, no emotions. They try to hide their struggles thinking it will make them look stronger. But real strength is not the absence of struggle. It is the courage to be honest about it. When someone opens up about their fears, failures, or confusion, they don't become weaker in our eyes. They become human. And that humanity is what creates connection. Vulnerability doesn't push people away. It pulls them closer. Because when someone dares to show their real self, it gives others permission to do the same. Permission is powerful. It breaks down walls. It dissolves judgment. It replaces competition with compassion. Have you ever been around someone who tries too hard to look perfect? It feels exhausting. You can't relax around them because everything feels like a performance. But when you're around someone who is comfortable being imperfect, you feel safe, you feel accepted, you stop pretending to, and that is the foundation of real connection. You don't have to overshare or confess every detail of your life. Vulnerability doesn't mean exposing everything. It means being genuine, being honest when someone asks how you're doing, admitting when you're tired, overwhelmed, or uncertain. There is power in the phrase, "I don't know," or "I'm still figuring it out," or "Yes, I've struggled with that too." Those words carry healing. They remind people that they're not alone. The human heart connects most deeply in moments of struggle, not in moments of performance. That's why we bond during difficult times. Loss, stress, heartbreak, failure. Shared struggle creates unity, and unity is stronger than impressiveness. If someone always looks perfect, others will admire them, but they won't connect with them. Perfection is distant, vulnerability is relatable, and relatability is what builds trust. When you open up with humility, people don't lose respect for you. Respect increases. Because vulnerability is courage. It takes courage to be real in a world full of masks, and courage will always draw admiration more than perfection ever will. Many people fear judgment. They think, if I show weakness, people will think less of me. But the opposite is true. When you are willing to talk about your fears, doubts, mistakes, or anxieties, people don't think less of you. They relate more to you. They feel human with you. They stop feeling alone in their own struggles. And when people stop feeling alone, healing begins. That is the gift vulnerability brings to others. It opens the door for deeper conversations. Conversations that go beyond small talk. Conversations that don't just pass time, they build connection. Vulnerability makes people feel seen. And feeling seen is one of the deepest human desires. But vulnerability doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean breaking down emotionally with everyone around you. It means being real. It means not pretending that everything is okay when it isn't. It means not smiling when you really need someone to listen. It means telling the truth when something hurts. The strongest people are not those who never cry. They are the ones who don't hide their humanity. Because hiding takes energy, showing takes courage, and courage is what transforms relationships, leadership, communication, and trust. Vulnerability says, "I'm human." And when someone feels safe enough to say that, others naturally follow. Think about the leaders you admire. Think about the people you trust the most. They are not the ones who never failed. They are the ones who admitted their failures and still kept going. They are the ones who told their story with honesty, not pride. Their vulnerability didn't make them weak. It made them real, and realness will always be more powerful than perfection. Because perfection is an illusion. Everyone struggles. Everyone doubts themselves sometimes. Everyone carries something heavy. And when you're brave enough to be honest about that, others don't turn away. They lean in. Because your honesty touches their reality. There's research that shows vulnerability builds trust faster than anything else. When someone shares something personal, it creates emotional safety. It sends a message that says, this is a safe place, you don't have to perform here. And when people feel safe, they open up, they admit fears, they take off the mask. They stop trying to impress and start trying to connect. Trust grows when judgment disappears. And judgment disappears when vulnerability shows up. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It is a strategy for deeper communication. It is the foundation of leadership, partnership, and friendship. Without vulnerability, connection stays shallow. Vulnerability also helps us grow. When we pretend to be perfect, we can't improve because we won't admit where we need help. Growth is impossible without honesty. The moment you say, I need help, or I don't understand, or I've made a mistake is the moment growth begins. Vulnerability opens the door for learning. And learning requires humility. The people who grow the fastest are the ones who aren't afraid to admit they don't know everything. They don't protect their ego, they protect their growth. But here's the key. Vulnerability must be paired with strength. Vulnerability without direction can feel heavy, but vulnerability with purpose becomes powerful. When you share your story, share it with the intention to connect, not to gain sympathy. When you share your struggle, share what it taught you. When you speak honestly, speak with hope. Because vulnerability isn't about making people feel sorry, it's about making them feel seen. It's about creating a space where people know they are not weak for having problems. They are human. And being human is not a flaw. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say to someone is, I understand, or have been there, or you're not alone. Those words cost nothing, but they mean everything. They bridge the gap between two hearts. They remind us that connection is stronger than perfection. Because perfection isolates, vulnerability unites, and unity is what people crave. Unity is what gives strength in difficult times. Unity is what builds communities that care for one another. In every relationship, personal, professional, or social, vulnerability will always be the door to connection. But that door must be open intentionally. You open it by being sincere, by being curious about others, by refusing to judge, by listening fully, by being real about your struggles while also showing resilience. Vulnerability says, I'm not perfect, but I'm still growing. And growth is something we all admire. Growth inspires. Growth brings respect. No one respects someone who pretends to be flawless, but people deeply respect someone who grows through their flaws. In the end, vulnerability is not a strategy to manipulate people. It is a way of life. It is simply choosing honesty over ego. It is choosing connection over performance. It is choosing courage over comfort. The people who connect most deeply are the ones willing to be seen as they truly are. They don't wear masks. They don't compete to be admired. They show up to be real. And real people build real relationships. Real relationships create real impact. And real impact begins when someone says the most powerful words a human can say. Me Too people won't remember how impressive you looked. They will remember how you made them feel. Every human interaction leaves an emotional trace behind. It's not the words, the style, or the outfit that stays with people. It's the emotion. Did they feel respected? Did they feel judged? Did they feel valued or ignored? That feeling becomes the memory. That feeling shapes the relationship. And often, the feeling decides whether they want to see you again or avoid you forever. Impressions fade. Feelings stay. That's why connection is far more powerful than performance. Because performance targets the mind, connection reaches the heart. And the heart is where loyalty, trust, and influence are born. From childhood to adulthood, we've all met people who looked impressive, but left us feeling small. We also met people who didn't try to stand out, yet made us feel comfortable, supported, and safe. We rarely admire someone because they were perfect. We admire them because they were kind. We don't cherish people because they impressed us. We cherish them because they understood us. Think about your own life. You might not remember what a teacher taught, but you remember how a teacher made you feel. You might forget the words someone said, but you remember the respect in their tone. You might forget the conversation, but remember the warmth you felt. That's because emotions are stronger than facts. When someone makes you feel important, you naturally feel drawn to them. When someone makes you feel stupid or invisible, you silently pull away. And most of the time, it's not even about what they said. It's about how they said it. It's the eye contact, the patience, the tone, the way they listened without interruption, the way they didn't look at their phone while talking to you. These little details communicate something powerful: you matter. And that message creates lasting impact. You don't need a perfect speech to connect with people. You need presence. You don't need expensive clothes to attract respect. You need humility. You don't need to show off knowledge. You need to show human understanding. Confidence makes you visible, but kindness makes you memorable. You can walk into a room looking powerful, but if your presence makes others feel weak, that power is an illusion. True strength is measured not by how loud you are, but by how safe others feel around you. When people feel safe, they open up, they relax, they listen. they trust, they connect. And connection is the foundation of every strong relationship, business, friendship, love, leadership. If someone leaves you feeling seen, you want to follow them. If someone leaves you feeling judged, you walk away silently. That is why influence doesn't start with intelligence. It starts with emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence means understanding how your presence affects others. It means recognizing that kindness isn't weakness. It is strategy. It builds allies without manipulation. It creates respect without demand. It unites people who would otherwise stay silent. You don't need authority to influence people. You need respect. And respect is earned through behavior, not appearance. Respect grows when you listen, when you allow others to speak, when you give credit, when you show humility. People don't remember the person in charge. They remember the person who cared. In every conversation, there is a choice. Do I try to sound smart, or do I try to make them feel valued? Do I try to dominate, or do I try to understand? Do I try to impress, or I try to connect? The second option always wins, because connection unlocks loyalty, respect, and trust, three things that no performance can guarantee. You may impress someone for a day, but when you connect, you influence someone for a lifetime. Influence is not about power, it's about impact. And impact comes from how you make people feel when they're around you. It's easy to think that being impressive will lead to success. But some of the most successful people in the world are not the loudest. They're the best listeners. They are not the most perfect. They are the most consistent. They are not focused on appearance. They are focused on experience. They understand that people don't stay for the show. They stay for the connection. They don't care about applause. They care about trust. And trust is built one feeling at a time. One conversation, one moment of patience. One simple, tell me more about that. One genuine, how are you doing, really? These small actions create big impact. They don't make you impressive. They make you unforgettable. When someone walks away from a conversation feeling important, they don't forget you. They may not remember your name, but they'll remember how they felt. They'll remember that you listened. They'll remember your kindness. They'll remember your calm energy that made them feel accepted. Long after the words are gone, the emotion remains. That is psychological truth. Emotions are stored deeper than facts. The heart memorizes what the brain forgets. And that is why trying to impress people will never win more hearts than trying to connect with them. People are not looking for perfection. They are looking for peace. They are searching for someone who makes them feel understood, someone who listens without judgment, someone who makes them feel valued even when they don't have everything figured out. And when you become that person, people will naturally gravitate toward you. Opportunities will find you. Relationships will grow. Leadership will emerge from your character, not your title. Because people don't follow impressive people. They follow people who make them feel stronger. They follow people who remind them of their worth. Connection also helps people change. If you want to correct someone, don't embarrass them, encourage them. If you want to teach someone, don't preach, guide. If you want to influence someone, don't shame, support. When someone feels safe, they become receptive. And when they feel receptive, they grow. That growth won't come from pressure. It comes from connection. Connection doesn't force people to change. It invites them to grow. And change that comes from invitation lasts longer than change that comes from pressure. That is emotional leadership. That is real influence. In the end, every interaction is an opportunity to lift someone up or to push them down, an opportunity to understand someone's pain or ignore it, an opportunity to walk away looking impressive or walk away having made a difference. And the difference that matters most is the emotional impact you leave behind. Did they feel heard? Did they feel respected? Did they feel safe being themselves? Those feelings are what shape your reputation, not your outfit. Not your vocabulary, not your awards. People may not remember how you looked, but they will never forget how they felt when they stood next to you. That is the power of human connection. That is what makes someone truly unforgettable. That is what leaves a mark on hearts, not just on minds. And hearts are what build legacies.